Tasks in CenterPoint will show up on your quick list underneath the section called Tasks. If you're not seeing your quick list, you can turn it back on by going to View and choosing View Quick List. There are a couple different kinds of tasks within CenterPoint. There are dynamic tasks, which allow you to see liability invoices that are due and to access those liability invoices quickly. So you see on my task list here that I have several liability invoices that are showing up there. You can also create your own tasks, which are called scheduled tasks. So you can create scheduled tasks to do to-do list items, such as doing a manual backup of my database on a weekly basis. Or you can create a workflow for a series of tasks that make up a particular process that is just more than one step. So underneath Due Today here, you can see where I've set up a series of tasks associated with running my payroll, and I have those in a particular order so that I don't forget a step. The tasks that are shown here are set up into 4 different sections. So we have those that are past due, due today, due this week, and due later. Clicking on the arrow at the end of each section will either expand or collapse that section. For liability invoices, you can choose which kinds of liability invoices you want to see by right-clicking on the screen and either putting a check mark in it or removing the check mark from account payable, payroll liability, and credit card liability invoices. The liability invoices have an action attached to them, so if you double-click on them, it'll take you to a screen where you can pay those liability invoices. So you see here that I have the liability invoice for Iceman Supplies, and I see that right over here. If I choose to pay it and click Post, that's how it removes it from the task list. I'm going to close that screen, but if it doesn't come off the task list right away, it does refresh every 5 minutes, or you can right-click on the screen and choose to refresh, and it'll remove it from the list. To create your own task, you can right-click on it, the screen, and choose to add a task. I want to add a task to run reports for my accountant. And this is something that I'm going to do on a monthly basis. The first occurrence of that is going to be August 1. So I'm going to choose that first occurrence, and then I do want to make it be recurring. So I'm going to check the box there and click the button for recurrence to describe the recurrence. Mine is going to be a monthly recurrence that I'm going to run on the first day of every month. I'm going to click OK. With the liability invoices, when I double-clicked on them, the action was to take it to the Pay Invoices Due screen. I would like to attach an action to this one that would take me to the Reports screen so that I could run reports for my accountant. So to the right of the action box is a button that I'm going to click on, and it's going to bring up a tree that represents the menus at the top of your screen. The menu option that I go to run reports is underneath Reports and Reports, so that's the action that I'm going to attach to this task. The sequence number on the right-hand side here allows me to put tasks that are part of a workflow into a particular sequence order, and that's how I got my tasks that I set up for my payroll in a particular order that we looked at earlier. I'm going to click Save on this, and this is going to add that task to the list. So if I come down here underneath Due Later, I should see this task for running reports for accountant. For any task that you create, you can also edit the task by right-clicking on the task and choosing to edit the task. You can change anything about the task, the name of it, the date it's going to run, the recurrence of it, and you can change the action attached to it. One of the things you can do here also is you can skip a recurrence. So you see here where I have a recurrence of 7/12. If that date has passed and I failed to do this task, I could skip the recurrence by clicking the skip recurrence button, and now you see the date is changed to 7/19, which is a week later. And then click save, and it moves that task to a different place on my list underneath due this week. To run a task that has an action on it, all you have to do is double click on it, just like we did with the liability ones, and it'll take you to the screen or the action that is attached to that task. In this case, it was to the screen to back up my database. I'm going to go ahead and back up the database, so I'm actually performing the task. And I'm going to click OK and click Close. Now that doesn't remove it from the list here. And I could right click on it and click refresh, and it still doesn't remove it from the list. To mark the task as completed, I can do it one of two ways. I can check the box right here, and that'll mark it as completed, or you can right click on it and mark it as completed. I'm just going to check the box, and that makes the task come off the list. It actually moved it to the next occurrence down here. That's why you see it down here. It's just a new date, but it marked that previous occurrence as completed. You can delete any task that you create by right-clicking and choosing to delete a task, but it has to be a task that you created. And then finally, there is an option on the list here to show completed tasks if you wanted to show completed tasks.